school was suspended with immediate effect. Remember, about a month ago, the department then said they were going to reintroduce extramurals by way of contact sport, and as well as at the end of the first term, there was talk then to get learners back to school every day, because remember, due to capacity and safe social distancing, etc., learners in schools where they did not have capacity were still alternating coming to school so that adequate safety protocols could be observed. And there was talk, and then that got shelved due to the what we're experiencing now in terms of numbers increasing, in terms of different strains that are heading our way. And it is said, well, I've read online articles in terms of this wave is actually going to be more severe than the second or the first wave as well. And on the back of that, the spokesperson for the Educators Union of South Africa has called for schools across the country to close their doors again this winter. And I'm joined now on the line with their spokesperson, and that is Kabelo Mahlobogwane. I hope I pronounced your surname correctly. Please forgive me if I haven't. But good afternoon and welcome to Mid Morning Talk, Kabelo.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to your listeners, and thank you very much for having us.
So now, your union is calling for, believes that the lives of both learners and pupils are at risk. It is a known fact that almost all public schools do not have PPEs, while cases, adequate PPEs, I should say, while cases of infected learners are growing tremendously. And you've mentioned here more than 70% of schools in Eastern Cape and Limpopo still do not have running water, which puts the lives of both teachers and learners at risk, as they can't wash their hands after using toilets. So you accusing, well, the union is accusing the department of dropping the ball. Please explain to us your feelings in terms of the current advent of the third wave.
I think it's very important that we all note that the country is still under lockdown. And by mere fact that the country is still under lockdown, it tells us that the virus is still there. And actually, even government does not have a plan, but it's not only in South Africa, but across the world. Everyone is still studying this virus. Vaccines are still being developed and studies are being conducted. So it does not make sense for us then as to why the Department of Education would want to rush to send children and teachers to face this deadly virus that even they themselves are afraid of. The ministers and everyone else that works in basic education, actually a large number of them are still working from home. And actually they are having these meetings where they decide about what teachers should do virtually at the comfort of their own bedrooms. But they still think that because teachers are subhuman beings, must be subjected to the virus. And at the same time, they're not even making plans to make sure that teachers are vaccinated. When the Minister of Health announced the rollout of vaccinations last year, he had said that teachers would form part of phase 2. But this year, we see the recent announcement seems to be diverting from that. So we are now saying that it cannot be that we continue sending teachers to face death like they are soldiers. So teachers are just human beings that are trying to make a difference in the community. Teachers should not be putting their lives on the line to impress anyone else that is working from home. But also teachers should be respected as professionals, and they should be respected as such at all times. So as other professionals are working from home, as other departments are making means to make sure that the employees are protected, we expect that basic education should do the same.
But Kabelo, the reality is the department also, that's one of the other failings in there, is that many schools don't have that capacity for online learning, especially in the provinces you've mentioned where the running water, that's the Eastern Cape, Limpopo schools, Mpumalanga schools, even Northern Cape, they don't have the capacity for online learning. And that was one of the greatest challenges that was faced by both educators and learners last year. And I don't think those schools that were marginalized have then improved their capacity in terms of distance learning.
Well, you are raising a very important point, and that is so true. But we need to also note that the problem that you're mentioning is not because of teachers, not the it was not caused
100%.
by teachers.
Absolutely.
It was caused by the department itself. And actually, we have warned the department from last year to say they need to use the time where schools were closed to prepare for a new normal. We've been warned about the new normal, all of us. We know that researchers said that COVID-19 might actually stay for us for longer than we anticipate. So for the department to now say because they failed to do their duties, teachers must die, does not make sense. We cannot be prioritizing academics on top of life. It is actually not the first time that schools will be closing now and learners will be missing out on academics in South Africa. Even in 1976, this happened, and people will manage to graduate, life moves on. So we cannot at any point say teachers must die because academics must continue. That is very responsible, especially coming from leaders who are always campaigning and saying that they care about us when it's election time. But when it's time to implement, they come and say it's fine if we die. You know, what makes this very painful for us is that we are in these schools, we are teachers, and we see people that know, that people that we work with every day die because of this virus. We see learners that we love so much get infected with this virus, and we see the children of those teachers that are dying becoming orphans and not having a breadwinner. So it's different from when you look at it from a statistics perspective, whereby you're just looking at 10,000, 1,000 teachers that died. But we see these people, we know them, we live with them. They're somebody's uncle, somebody's mother, and somebody's sister. And that is where we must start looking at this issue. Not from the issue of the minister who's working from home, or the MECs who are working from home, or who are working in offices that are well conditioned, with PPEs available there, and with half the staff that's at the school.
So, Kabelo, I have two other questions, but the first one is in terms of then compensating for the loss contact teaching and learning time. If schools have to be closed, and especially schools that don't have the capacity and infrastructure to do online learning, what is the union proposing in terms of a solution to then compensate for that lost contact time?
The issue of closing the school should not be done in an umbrella approach because South Africa is not an equal society. So what the department should do is that they should go to the ground. That's why we emphasize this issue of them making decisions from Zoom. They should go to the ground, speak to schools, understand the specific situation in those schools, and resolve it in that manner. The schools that were affected with curriculum coverage are schools which had more than 60, 80 learners in a classroom. And the reason is that these learners had to be divided into three groups instead of two groups. And now it took longer for them to be able to come to school and catch up. But in a lot of schools where learners are actually about 40 or less in the classroom, learners actually benefited from this thing of the rotation system. And actually the schools that are more affected, you are rightfully so, is that there are schools that are poor, schools that don't have, are not paying school fees, don't have enough support from government. So this thing that school learners are affected is actually a lie because they're making it an umbrella approach. It's specific schools that the department should therefore make a budget available for those schools to make sure that they either provide mobile classrooms like they did in some schools during school closure last year so that learners can be able to be divided. Remember, this thing of schools having 60 learners and 80 learners is actually even illegal before COVID-19 because the South African Schools Act says that a high school must have a maximum of 35 or 40, 35 learners, and a primary school must have a maximum of 40 learners in the classroom. So we cannot be making it normal that we have schools in South Africa that have over 80 learners in one classroom. We should be condemning that, all of us together with you guys in the
Absolutely.
media.
No, absolutely. My background is in education. I'm an early childhood development specialist, and I concur with you. It's counterproductive. How do you reach out to anybody? As an educator myself, even with 40 and 35 is a challenge in terms of connecting with each individual learner in the department. Wants you as an educator to have inclusive learning in your classroom. So within that, you need to factor in learning requirements and needs. So each individual learner sitting there at 35, at 35, it's already challenging. So I feel for my fellow educators as well. And now you're having the circumstance. But so then, as a union, how do you feel when we heard, I think late last year or early this year, I'm just trying to now get the exact time frame, that so much
Yes.
money was spent on sanitizing classrooms when nobody was using the classrooms, and it was not even a requirement from World Health Organization to have those classrooms sanitized when nobody was there. And I'll give you a personal account that I heard. In one of the schools were sanitized, or said to be sanitized, but then that school had litter from the time of lockdown. So there were crisp papers lying around, chocolate papers, and just there was litter in the classroom that had not been cleaned. Apparently, one of the educators had indicated to me that there was a dead bird that was there in the classroom. But when she came to a classroom, she was told her classroom was sanitized, but it was not clean. So I was trying to just process, how does a classroom get sanitized but not clean? You have a dead bird that obviously organisms will be attracted to it and it's going to be harmful. So how does it make you feel? Is it when you knew there was over 90 million available for the sanitizing could be used in infrastructure to put up running water facilities, or invest in IT infrastructure at schools?
We are not surprised by that. Actually, if you remember, we warned the county last year when the department was forcing that schools should reopen amid the pandemic. We said the only reason they want to reopen schools is that it's because they want to steal money that is meant for PPE. And we have been proven right again. But the country should not act surprised, because we know that we are led by mafias. When you are led by mafias and comrades, and some of them with criminal charges, then we cannot expect anything better out of them. President Ramaphosa can do so much to try and fight. But the fact of the matter remains that in all of these provinces, in the municipality, the departments, we have comrades that are mafias that are threatening people with guns in community meetings just to try and attain these positions. And it is South Africans who are keeping the very same mafias in power, who are fine with this. So we can't be surprised.
So let me ask you this, Kabelo, but then when you approach for votes during election time, then how is it that the unions oblige?
We are not political, we don't participate in this politics because we understand that it's a very dirty game. But we have unions in South Africa right now that are participating. Unions, that's why.
And aligned to the ruling party. They aligned, and they make they vocal about the association and affiliation with this. But then after elections, they are the same ones that then call out the departments on what they're not doing. So the thing is, we the ordinary people have put our leaders there in power. So actually we should be the ones questioning ourselves that we allowed this to happen. So now I want to move on to another question here in terms of educators being prioritized for vaccinations. Has that happened? Has that not happened?
It's very disappointing. Actually, on the side of the president, as a union, we are actually writing to the president to ask him to act on that, because teachers are frontline workers. When last year they said they want to vaccinate health workers, yes, we understood and actually we welcomed that decision with so much joy, because at that time health workers were in the front line, everyone else was working remotely, and they needed to actually vaccinate them first because they were dealing face to face with the virus. But teachers are in contact with thousands of learners every day. One would expect that they would be the second people to be vaccinated, because without teachers and without schools, and all of these other departments, all of this other work that is happening would not happen if there are no people that are graduating from a basic education, going into the workforce, going to research, and going to these other things. That is why we are saying government is not prioritizing teachers. If you look at even the working conditions that were subjected to, teachers were killed just a few years ago in schools, and even today, nothing has been done to maximize security in schools. But the president managed, together with the Minister of Finance, to increase the budget for VIP protection of state officials with 1.6 billion rand, whereas he removed over 3 billion rand from the SAPS, meaning that the general country has less security. Already we are faced with so much crime, but the politicians, who we don't know what they are so much afraid of, are getting extra security. So that is why I'm saying we are led by mafia. And South Africa needs to wake up, teachers need to wake up, because you cannot be having a union that goes to media every day and speaks on behalf of the department, yet they claim to be having a majority members in education, and teachers are still celebrating that. Teachers are professionals, but teachers are the ones that actually have a role to play in making sure that we fix the country, because they deal with a majority of, there's no human being in South Africa that can go to adulthood without passing through basic education. And that is where teachers need to play an active role in mobilizing and making sure that we release learners that are independent thinkers that can be able to play an active role in strengthening democracy and social justice in South Africa.
Absolutely. Kabelo, please, I need to go for a quick commercial break. Please, can you stay on the line? I just have a few questions that while I have you here from a union perspective that I would like to raise.
No problem. Thank you.
Kids these days are smart, and when you're competing for their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
Mates Linen pop-in store for these amazing deals. Quilts from 170 Rand. Private collection standard pillows, twin pack from 80 Rand. Pierre Cardin duvet covers from 250 Rand. Assorted scatters from 100 Rand. We are stockers of Linen House range and designer curtains by Stuart Graham. Let Mates Linen turn your house into a home. Mates Linen branded outlet. 202 Brickfield Road, Overport, Durban. Call us on 031 209 0176.
Africa. As the crisis in Palestine continues, the Africa Muslims Agency teams are on the ground facilitating emergency food and medical assistance to the affected families. Donate 15,000 Rand or any amount and help the people of Palestine. Call AMA now on 083-251-9376 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back. You tuned into Mid Morning Talk with your host Mariam Mia, and we're discussing a statement put out by the union, that is the Educators Union of South Africa, and I have the spokesperson with me on the line, Kabelo. Kabelo, thank you for staying on the line. And yes, Kabelo, on behalf of the union, has put out a request, a statement that he believes that the lives of pupils and teachers are at risk in light of the third wave, and schools should be closed for winter or at a time until numbers have a decrease in this, because it's not only the educators but children, the pupils are at risk, and especially with our poor infrastructure in South African schools, where many schools don't have the capacity to follow World Health Organization guidelines in terms of social distancing, adequate PPEs. We don't even, in some schools, which is the reality in Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, that they don't have running water at the schools, and they still, sadly in 2021, still using pit latrines. So thank you for staying on the line, Kabelo.
Thank you very much. I'm still here.
Okay. So, Kabelo, we have engaged in this, and you were just speaking about how disappointed the union is in terms of educators were not prioritized along with other frontline workers in terms of the vaccine rollout for educators. And this has left educators in a very, very vulnerable situation and position.
Exactly. So, as we were saying, that this is not the first time with this pandemic that teachers are being undermined in this country by our government. Actually, what the pandemic has done, we have been saying this from the beginning, is that all of these problems that we are seeing now with basic education are not problems that are new or problems that are caused by the pandemic, as it is in other departments, but it's problems that have been long existing. And actually, what the pandemic has done is that it has expose these problems that have been hidden for so long. I mean, we would agree that before the pandemic, you would never have media, especially mainstream media in South Africa, speaking about teachers for so long. But since the pandemic, it's only then that it seems like teachers are being listened to. And these are not issues that are very difficult to resolve. That's why we are saying we need to start prioritizing teachers and their lives. These are issues that can be easily resolved. But there's a lack of political willingness from those that are leading us to actually intervene here. You have raised a very important issue of sanitization. In Gauteng alone, we have had reports that an amount that is over 46 million was spent to sanitize schools. We don't know which schools are being sanitized. We don't do even disinfect and fumigate schools. We don't know which schools are those. And what the government should be doing, especially from the office of the president, is to institute investigations into these alleged conduct of corruption in Gauteng, in the Eastern Cape, in KZN, but also at the national office with the issue of Jojo tanks. Because as we speak today, we have a number of schools in Limpopo, in the Eastern Cape, who say we never received water from last year, we don't have Jojo tanks. And the president is reluctant to do that because we saw him doing it with the former MEC Health in Gauteng, who was suspended by Bandile Masuku because of allegations of corruption relating to PPE money. We saw it with the former spokesperson of the president, Biko. But we are not seeing that happening in education. There is not even a single time where we can refer since in the past 15 years whereby there was an investigation into any allegation in basic education. And we don't know what power do these people that are in education have within the ruling party that they are untouchable.
Yes, something definitely worth taking up and highlighting. I want to now, while I have you on the line, I just like your opinion and your feedback. Your response, because earlier in my show I spoke to the provincial manager, the Limpopo provincial manager of the South African Human Rights Council, Victor, and Victor Mahvidula, and as you're well aware, they were for the past week collating evidence and looking into school bullying. So they had various learners, NGOs, they went into communities, and what they found was really, really shocking in terms of cases of bullying as well as sexual abuse by the very educators that were meant to protect our learners. Sexual harassment cases at one school. An educator who's now being arrested for repeatedly raping a learner at the school in 2018. At the same school, incidentally, where the learner who had taken her life, so learner Lafuno Mabunga had taken her life there. It was at the same school that this teacher is now has been charged, and the case is going to go through. So I was told one of the stumbling blocks, so it's written here, in one of the stumbling blocks in most cases of sexual abuse is that some teacher unions defend their members no matter what. So I'd like to know from your union specifically, do you have a code of conduct? So anybody, if I'm an educator and I'd like to join the union, your union specifically, that is the Educators Union of South Africa, do I have to ascribe to a specific code of conduct? Or if I'm found wanting, especially it's a serious allegation of sexual abuse, will I get the support of the union unconditionally?
So when people sign up on our membership, we also make them aware that they are agreeing to all the terms and conditions and the constitution as well as other policies of the union. And part of that is that we would not represent people but the issue is that before we even start there, so I think with your question is that would we represent someone that is alleged to have done something that is so shocking? Unfortunately, we know that the South African Constitution speaks that everyone is...
No, 100%, and I hear you. No, what I'm saying is not represent, but some unions provide unconditional support. Even when educators are found to be part of the change of corruption in schools, because some educators, they are so-called shop stewards as well, and they can never be taken to task because of the strong position they hold in at union. So that is what I'm saying. that
We
when a teacher is found, we all human beings, we all fallible, we sometimes we have a lapse in judgment, but when an educator is now on a charge of such a serious allegation, does then your union specifically, would you then show really support, or then indicate to your member, as far as your constitutional rights are concerned, we will support you there, but it's not under unconditional support. If you have found to be guilty of the said charges, then you went to a process of law, then unfortunately we have to terminate your membership because you do not ascribe to the values of our union.
actually that is what we do. We do not support anyone that is found guilty of any misconduct. We do not even say any serious. If you are a teacher, you are a professional, and we expect you to conduct yourself in that manner. So should it come to a case whereby you are found guilty of any misconduct in any, do not check whether it's that small or that big. We distance ourselves from you immediately and actually we terminate membership. But over and above that, we have a lot of cases where actually we have been fighting for people that you find that at the end of the day are guilty. So what we do now, before we even represent you, we first do our own small investigation to check whether there are prospects of whether you can be guilty or not. So we do not just go and waste our resources to represent someone that we know through our own investigations is guilty. If we tell you we see that you might be guilty, we immediately advise you to go look for assistance somewhere because we believe that you might be guilty on this case and we do not want to associate ourselves with such people. So we are very strict. We do not just take any case that a member comes. We do our investigations first before we decide on whether we are going to take up the case or not. So we are very strict on corruption and especially abuse of learners and abuse of state resources by teachers. We are very strict on that. We do not even compromise. Whether you are a leader at whatever position, we don't compromise there.
I'm so pleased that you're saying this, and you're saying this without reservation and categorically, because I think that's what we need. I have utmost respect for educators. They shape our future leaders. They are the inspiration, motivation, but sadly we have many, and that's a reality. There are many educators that for whatever reason they failing our youngsters, probably, and that's what I say, education is a calling. You need to have that unwavering commitment to make a difference in a child's mind. It's not just a career. It is not a career. If you're looking for a career, then maybe choose something, because teaching is a calling. It's a dedication. It's not just at school. It's after school, putting up the engaging, developing a relationship with your learners. So basically, it's a way of life. And I always say you need to embrace this way of life if you're thinking of a vocation or career in education. And having said that about the human rights report, well, then once the report is made available in recommendations made to the department, I know Victor was very, very scathing in terms of department officials not knowing their duties and responsibilities, education department, social department, in terms of reporting things, opening up the register. He said they were just not knowledgeable. Will you then study this report by the South African Human Rights Commission and then communicate these recommendations to your members, educator members as well, so that they can become more aware and cognizant with regard to these type of issues?
Definitely we'll be doing that. Actually, we have other partnerships that we are trying to establish with organizations that are already in that case, especially the ones which deal with ethical leadership. And we are trying to make sure that we even instill this issue of ethical leadership within our members and leaders, because we believe that teaching is not a career, like you're saying, but it's a pastoral duty. So you cannot be a teacher if you are not a parent, or you cannot be a parent to a child yourself. And that is what we are trying to instill. But also we try to instill ethical morals within our teachers, because as you know, young children do not always listen, but they always imitate what they see happening from the adults around them. And we want teachers to be good examples, to imitate, to actually portray good images and good morals, so that learners can always be able to copy these things and they take them further in life. We are not actually, in a lot of instances, we have been asked to intervene in cases whereby there were allegations of bullying, the bullying of learners by teachers. And unfortunately, we had to go to those schools and act against teachers because of such instances. So we are not just an organization that represents teachers. That is why even today when we speak about COVID-19, we also speak about learners, because
Absolutely. And I'm so
represented
encouraged
a lot of
that this is a union that definitely is a voice, an amplified voice for educators. But for me, it's responsible education, and you're looking at the education system as a whole, uh, in all the role players. And yes, where your members are found wanting, you are putting them to task, and you are remediating the behavior as well. So you're looking at education, and you said ethical leadership for me is really, really, really important, because you know what, every day you open something and you see wherever the corruption, opportunities for corruption is so rife, that it's important that we start having conversations now about ethical leadership. And I'm so pleased, and I like to commend you, Kabelo, on in terms of you not being defensive. In and I can hear the sincerity of your voice and sincerity of what the Educators Union of South Africa wants to do, because often then it's just defensive and there's a name blame going on, and we're not part of the solution. And I can see that from you representing the Educators Union of South Africa, you are determined to make education the winner, and it's not about the role players in the system, but it's how to make the system best system we can for South Africa, for the future of South Africa. I think we've lost Kabelo there. He's there, but I'm sure he will hear my words. I so enjoyed chatting to him on a variety of issues that he has engaged us with. And it has been a really thought-provoking, reflective morning, discussing issues. For me, all our topics we had this morning was really introspection and reflection, and for us to think about issues, engage about them. And like I say, let's